Today we are going to talk about 4 ways that you can overcome creative block because I know we've all been there and I know we've all been stuck. What's going on is Pimp Fried Rice. Welcome to the Music into Millions podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully you guys are having a great week. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if that's where you're watching. If you're listening on somewhere where you listen to podcasts, make sure you subscribe. That way we can help more artists to reach their goals of becoming professional rappers without needing to wait on a record label. Like I was saying, today we're going to be talking about 4 different ways that we can overcome creative block because that seems to be something that we just always get as creatives and as artists, and the more ways you know how to combat that when it comes, the quicker you can get rid of it. So the number one way to get rid of creative block is honestly to just step away from the project. You can either go outside or just do something completely different. And this has helped me on countless occasions where, you'll be locked in the studio for a couple hours working on some songs, and then you just get to a point where it's like your brain has just stopped working and it's kind of just like mush inside of there. It's sometimes the best thing to do is to just turn the computer off, put down the notepad and the pen, unplug the microphone, whatever you need to do, and just go outside. If it's a bad day or it's rainy outside, just go do something else. Maybe you could go draw or sketch, go watch some TV, go, do anything that's not making music, because what's happening is you're actually letting that creative muscle relax for a little bit. And so when you come back to the project, whether it be an hour later, maybe even a day later, sometimes you do got to take a little extra time, especially if you are really working that creative muscle. But when you come back, you feel so much more, rejuiced and revived and ready to just create, because you now stepped away and you're not beating something that's already at the point where it's exhausted and it can't go any further. Because at that point, you're just going to end up actually hurting the song or hurting the project or hurting whatever you're working on if you try and force through that creative block. Sometimes it's better to just stop. I'm not getting any good results right now. We'll pick this up later. That's sometimes the best thing for you to do. So that's tip number 1 for combating creative block. Tip number 2 is, with being a musician, being a rapper, a lot of times we fall into the realm of we only listen to rap, or we only listen to whatever we're listening to at the time. But tip number 2 is to listen to something completely outside of your genre or something completely new. So if you're the type of person where you may not like necessarily new other genres of music or something like that, you're more specific, just go check out new music. Maybe it's a new rapper you've never heard before. Maybe it's a new album you've never listened to. Anything. But if you're a little bit more open-minded, go check out new genres of music. There's so many different genres out there. There's country, Afrobeat, hip-hop, rock, Latin. Literally so many different genres. One that have crossed over with each other. So you can find pretty much a mutant genre baby of just about any genre nowadays. But also the fact that now you're getting a little bit of a dive into what these other genres sound like. So maybe you're a hip-hop artist that never listens to country music. You go and listen to a bunch of country music. Who knows? You may have a single on your next project that sounds like something Lil Nas X made, because you're now influenced by this genre you've never heard before. Or maybe you're super into alternative music, so you go on like a deep dive through, the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, to where you get a really great, post-punk grunge influence that comes into your music, and you start doing something along that wave. But honestly, just put down what you're used to, put down the hip-hop, put down things that are familiar and stale and boring, and go pick up something you've never heard before, because that is going to open up the floodgates, and you're going to find different ways to apply it to your music. And the more you begin to check out other genres like that and go into other, deep dives into these genres and styles and all that kind of stuff, you're going to begin to influence into your music, and eventually, like I said, you're going to have one of those mutant genre babies of music yourself, and that's when you really start getting into some fun creative stuff. So that is number 1. And number 2, the third way is to watch other artists create. And this could be this could be producers, this could be other artists rapping, this could be really anything. And if you go on YouTube, there are so many different channels for this kind of stuff. Like you could watch, one of my favorite ones is In the Cave with Kenny Beats, where essentially he's a producer, and he brings a rapper on his show, and the whole concept of the show is don't overthink it. And they make a beat together on the spot, and then he sends the rapper into the studio, and then he just lets the rapper kind of do their own thing. They record the whole process. It's a really fun show. I recommend checking it out. But I watch that show if I'm running out of ideas or if I just feel like I can't get anything, or sometimes I'll just go watch other producers cook up. Like I'll go on, Producer Grind or, Internet Money, which are great ones for producers. But for artists, you could go watch freestyles. Maybe you could go watch like the XXL ciphers from back in the day. You could watch, artists performing. Like I know something that's really cool that just happened was the Travis Scott show with Fortnite, which actually I might talk about tomorrow. I'm still debating on a topic, so if that happens, awesome. If not, I'd recommend you check that out. That's super crazy. He basically had a virtual concert on Fortnite, which is perfect for nowadays with everything with the quarantine and the lockdown. But I digress. So yeah, basically just watch other creative people create, because what's going to happen is you're going to see them do things that you're like, oh, I can do that too, or I would have done it more like this. And then when you start to think of variations of how they've done it or things that you would have done, you start to, get those wheels turning again, get that creative juice flowing, and a lot of times that can really just help you jump over that creative block. So that is number 1, 2, and 3, and the fourth way that you can overcome creative block is to collaborate with a friend. Music is so collaborative, from getting a beat with somebody or featuring on somebody's verse or working with an engineer. Music has always been and will always be a collaborative effort. The more people involved, usually the better and the more fun the process is. So sometimes when you feel like you're stuck and you can't get it by yourself, sometimes it's great to just get a friend in the studio with you, to where he may have ideas that you never even thought of before, and as soon as they throw something out, you're like, oh, and then we can do this and we can do that, and then all of a sudden you went from having no ideas to having 1,000 ideas, all because of one little thing that they brought up or put out on the table. So definitely collaborate with different people, whether it be friends or new people, because with the internet you can literally reach out to just about anybody. But don't be afraid to collaborate, and collaborate with people in your genre and people outside of your genre. Some of the most fun collaborations that I've had recently are with people outside of my genre that I never even would have thought to work on. Like, just literally as of this weekend, I made my first alternative song ever, which super awesome. I'm super excited for you guys to check out. It sounds so good. Shout out to Lud. He reached out to me on Instagram and we kind of, just put the whole song together. But that was something totally different. And that was because a friend of mine a little bit earlier that week had mentioned he started doing alternative songs. So I was like, oh, okay, let me start to get into this wave and everything like that. But again, collaboration. The more you watch what other people do, the more you work with other people, the more you're going to be creatively stretched and the more you're going to open up your possibilities. So that is 4 ways to get over creative block, something that we all struggle with, but we don't all have to fall victim to. We can hurdle over those blocks next time they come with those 4 great tips. Have a great rest of your week. Make sure you guys keep on creating, keep taking advantage of all this free time we're having. I'm sure you guys are going crazy at home, but don't let it get to you. Just keep on working. Have a great week. See you next time.